I think you'll like this.
Yeah, I like it. I like it from the first sentence. I
You like it already.
like it already.
Hi, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Hi, Jay. Hi, Jalen. Hi, Beth. Hi, Asher Chaim. Hi, Becca. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi, Amy. Amy Tallahassee. Hi. Good to see you. I loved you in the Purim spiel.
Thank you.
I meant to write to you in your little circle, but I did not. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. All right. So we're gonna wait about a minute. It's only just 8:45 now. And then we'll get going. Jay, how are the grandchildren?
Nothing better in the world.
How old's the new baby now? Like a month or more?
Ma'ayan Lev Sivav is a little over 2 months, and Kedem Aviv is a little over 2 years.
Wow. Cool. What a waste of coffee.
You know, my eyes are not open right yet,
Because you haven't had coffee.
so I turned it upside down and I'm pouring.
I've done that. Oh my God.
Oh, thank you for telling me that.
You know, I've done that. I put the
Makes me feel
filter
better.
on the mug and the mug goes the wrong way. Yeah. Yeah.
Holding it
Yeah.
upside
I've done that. Yeah. Okay, everybody. So, hi. For people in the room, everyone can hear you on Zoom. So let's now sort of become one room on screen and in person. It's funny to say on screen and in person because everyone who's on screen is also in person for themselves or in person to themselves. Okay, so we are going to begin with the bracha over Torah study. I see lots of little boxes. If you can show your faces, great. If you don't feel like it this morning, you're still in bed, that's fine too, or whatever. Hi, good to see you. Shabbat shalom. Okay, everybody in cacophony. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Olam
haolam
asher
Kedusha
kedushanu
mitzvotah
v'tzivanu
v'tzivanu
asok b'divrei Torah.
Torah.
Great Torah, blessed are you, divine source of the universe, ruler of the world, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to soak your divine Torah. Okay. So we're going to do something really fun today and a little different. And this is inspired by some study I had with Asher Chaim. So thank you, Asher Chaim. What Asher Chaim taught me. So we're going to dive right into it. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Oh, so far it is not working. Hold on. What do you all see? Black. That's not good. Second. Try this again. Aha, it's right there. So what is happening? Someday someone will teach me the secrets of screen sharing.
With Rabbi Dan, there we go. Okay.
You see it now, right? I found it. It was hiding. Okay, here we go. It's called the mark. The mark of ambivalence. Exactly what I want.
No. I'm the mark of ambivalence.
What'd you say, Mark?
I'm the mark of ambivalence.
You are not the Mark. I mean, you might be Mark, but you're not the person I was referring to. Good morning. Yeah. Okay. Shh. Everyone on screen can hear everything in this room. So we've already begun. So it's called the mark of ambivalence, not the Mark Horn of ambivalence. But Mark, we can have that conversation whenever you want to have it. Okay, so You'll see what I mean in a minute by the mark, not the mark horn of ambivalence, hopefully. So first, let's start with these beautiful words from Jonathan Sacks. Tomas in the room. Do you feel like reading?
Sure.
Great.
Number one.
Number one. We're number one.
Judaism is a religion of words, and yet whenever the language of Judaism aspires to the spiritual, it breaks into song, as if the words themselves sought to escape from the gravitational pull of finite meanings. There is something about melody that intimates a reality beyond our grasp, what William Wordsworth called the sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns and the round ocean and the living air. Words are the language of the mind, music is the language of the soul.
Thank you so much. So the Torah, as you all know, or maybe you will know, is people can hear everything. That's why. Is a song, right? It's written as a song, and at some point there are melodic marks. That's probably not the right term or the correct term, but there are marks called trope written to the Torah by the Masoretes, who gave it melodic marks, but also marks that served as punctuation and also interpretation of meaning. So we're going to get into what that means in a moment. I found this on one of the source sheets I was looking at on Safaria, and since Yochanan Mupps was my teacher, I included it. And I remember him doing this, so it was amazing. So Ismar Shorsh, who's a former chancellor of JTS, writes, music does not only remove a text from the numbing effect of ordinariness, it also facilitates memorization. In rabbinic culture, it was largely oral. So remember, the rabbis who wrote the Talmud and the Midrash basically knew the entire Torah by heart, right? And they were like trafficking in biblical verses, right? They could, as proof text, they'd pick a verse from here, from the five books of Moses, from the writings, from the prophets, and they interweave, right, their commentary with these verses. Professor Yochanan Mupps, the JTS faculty, one of the top Bible scholars in the world, loves to recount that when he was a youngster trying to learn passages of the Tanakh by heart, the Bible by heart, he would sit at the piano and put them to music. Prior to the invention of printing, Jews in the synagogue prayed and listened to the Torah reading without benefit of written texts. Music served as a medium of transmission. Then I put a picture, but it wouldn't stay for some reason, of a shalshelet, of one of the marks. So you'll see right here. Oh, it's actually not there. I'm so sorry, it's missing. It was part of the source sheet. So the shalshelet is a certain mark, right? And I'm going to ask Asher Chaim to sing it in a moment. Actually, let's stop the share. A certain mark that only occurs 4 times in the Torah, and it's a very distinctive mark, as you'll hear from him in a minute. And there are some, like most of the marks, the cantillation marks, the trope marks, are much more common, like the mercha, and the tupcha, and the munach, and the etnachta, and the sof pasuk, right? You find them, almost in every verse. Some of them in every verse, but the shalshelet only 4 times in the Torah. So it has to be, right, an incredible moment for, our ancestors to have decided that a shalshelet is appropriate, right? So, and it occurs in our parsha and 3 other places in the Torah. And we're going to look at all those places and decide what is common about all those places and what does that mark teach us about our parsha and that moment. Okay, clear about the agenda for today? Great. So Asher Chaim, you're on just to show people what or let people hear what a shalshelet is.
I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble getting my sources here. Right. Should I do the verse before just for sort of the context?
Yeah, you can just do a shalshelet pure or with the verse, whatever you want to do, however you want to do.
I'll start
Just
at
to show
22.
people what a shalshelet is.
ויקרב את האל השני אל המילואים וישמחו אהרון ובניו את ידיהם על ראש העיל וישחט Vayikach Moshe midamo, etc.
Okay, thank you so much. So you heard the Vayishchat and the Shalshelet, right? That sort of determined how Asher Chaim sung that word to, and he slaughtered. So what does that sound, right? What does that indicate? Before we even get into the Torah passage, what does it say to you? Just quick remarks.
Sounds like the shofar.
Sounds like a shofar. Interesting.
Ah.
Right.
It's important
It's important. How do you know it's important? What about that sound tells you it's
because,
important?
well, Asher Chaim lingered on the sound for
Asher Chaim
a while.
lingered, so it's drawn out, right? It makes you stay in that word. Okay, what else? Anything else? So there's a lingering. Some might say a delay. So hold on one second. I just want to read what's in the chat. 1 second. So I hear here. Yes, poetry equals sheer. Yeah, sheer, the word for song in Hebrew is another word for poetry. Asher Chaim, pause, ambivalence, contemplation, uncertainty, wavering. Extremely melodic, Barbara Cecil, our resident musician, says. Slow down and pay attention. Nice. Up and down and up and down and up and down. Yes. How old are the trope signs? I think before the 10th century. Is that correct, Asher Chaim? I love when I get a nod from Asher Chaim. Excellent. I wanted to nudge the needle on the record. Great, Mark Horn. Drama, yes, definitely drama. We'll hear more and more drama in each one of those moments of the Shalshelet in the Torah. Good morning, everyone. Here's a link to the source sheet. Okay, excellent. There was Julia. Did you want to say something?
I really don't know. But so if it means it was slaughtered, maybe this gets us into the drama category or in the what's the shofar sound equals mean category. But maybe there's like a I don't know, like a gasp of life or the animals being slaughtered or hearing the little scene play out. I don't know.
I love that. So now, and also I want to talk about that a little bit later. Like, there's different ways to look at why that moment is drawn out. And Julia's hearing the life of the animal, right? The life of the animal, like being like expired, extinguished. That's amazing. Okay, I think we're going to go on. Now we're going to do a lot of work in order to get to that moment in our parsha. So what I want to do is this. I ask Asher Chaim to read this whole passage. And these are the days of consecration of Aaron and his sons. So Moshe, okay, so what happens is the first few chapters of Leviticus, right, from 1 to about 8, are about sacrifices and the different categories of sacrifices. Then we move into consecration or induction of the priests of Aaron and his sons. But who's doing that induction? It's Moshe, who for the first, maybe not the first, we can argue that, but who's for the last time serving as a priest so that he can induct his brother and his brother's sons into service. Right? After this, he doesn't serve as a priest ever again. So that's really interesting. And in a sense, I mean, he's the one who went up to Sinai to hear all the details, right, and the instructions for the Mishkan. And now he has to literally hand it over, give it over. Okay, so Asher Chaim, would you read this passage? If you want to linger again at that specific verse, you can. With the Shalshelet, I'll leave that in your hand, so to speak. So I'm sorry, Asher Chaim, you're muted, but when it says Vayakrev, he brought. So this is Moshe.
Try again. Vayakrev et ha'el hasheni el hamiluim, vayismechu Aharon uvanav et yedehem al rosh ha'el. And he brought forth, offered the second ram, the ram of ordination, inauguration, and Aharon and his sons pressed down their hands on the head of the ram. Vayishhat. ויקח משה מדמו וייתן על תנוך אוזן אהרון הימנית ועל בוהן ידו הימנית ועל בוהן רגלו הימנית. And he slaughtered it. Or here the translation, and it was slaughtered. Moshe took from its blood.
Oh, wait, but it's really, he slaughtered it. It's not, and it was slaughtered.
Right.
There's no naming of the subject there, right? And do you want to talk just for a second about the pasek, not only about the shalshelet?
About the what?
The pasek in 23.
Oh, you mean the little line separating?
The sign, yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's clearly setting that one word apart from the rest of the verse. It's saying pause, as if you haven't spent enough time on Vayishchat. Don't let it run into the next word.
Exactly. So it stands alone, and he slaughtered it. Right. So the shalshelet, right, draws it out and then stop. And even though there's a connecting vav after the Vayishchat, a connecting and, the Masoretes or the trope is telling us no, stop between these two phrases.
Vayikach Moshe middamo. Moshe took part of its blood and placed it on Aharon's right earlobe and on his right thumb and on his right big toe.
Do you want to say something about that, or should I?
Oodles of sermons about it. Which one would you like to share?
Just at the basic level. So why these extremities? So just in simple terms, it's a way to cover the whole body. But you can also, the extremities of the body, but you can also think about these different places as symbolic for what we do in life, like with the foot we walk, and with the ear we listen, and with the hand we do the sacrificial work. And also, before this passage, blood was sprinkled on the altar, and also on the horns of the altar, and on the ground under the altar. So it's a way of like covering all your bases. But if you want to add something about that, because it's so mysterious and interesting, and that same rite is used around the purification of the leper.
Stay tuned in just 3 weeks. Vayakrev et bnei Aharon, vayiten Moshe min haddam al tnuch oznam hayemanit, v'al bohen yadam hayemanit, v'al bohen raglam hayemanit, vayizrok Moshe et haddam al hamizbeach saviv. And Moshe brought forth. Vayakrev is the same bringing forth as the verb to sacrifice, but that's another story. And he brought forth the sons of Aaron, and Moshe placed some of the blood on the right earlobe, on their right earlobes, on their right thumbs, on their right big toes. Then Moshe threw or scattered the rest of the blood on the altar around. Vayikach et ha'chelev v'et ha'alya v'et kol ha'chelev asher al ha'kerev v'et yoteret ha'kaved v'et shtei ha'kelayot v'et helbehen v'et shok hayamin. Then Moshe took the forbidden fat and the broad tail, all the fat about the entrails, the protuberance, the liver, and the 2 kidneys and their fat, and the right thigh. Umisal hamasot asher lifnei Adonai lakach halat matzah achat v'halat lechem shemen achat v'rakik echad vayasem al hachalavim v'al shok hayamin. And from the basket of matzah that was in the presence of Yod-Heh Vav-Heh, he took 1 loaf of matzah plus 1 loaf of oiled bread and a cake and a rakik, a cake of oiled bread, a wafer, and he placed all of them on the fats and on the right thigh. ויתן את הכל על כפי אהרון ועל כפי בניו, וינף אותם תנופה לפני אדוני. And he took all of this and placed it on the palms of Aharon and the palms of his son. And he performed a wave offering on them in the presence of Yud-Heh Vav-Heh. ויקח משה אותם מעל כפיהם, ויקטר המזבחה על העולה, מילואים הם לריח ניחוח אישהו לאדוני. Moshe took those things from off their palms and offered them as an incense offering on the altar on top of the burnt offering. These were miluim, inauguration offerings for pleasant smell, a fire offering to Yud-Heh Vav-Heh. ויקח משה את החזה וינפהו תנופה לפני אדוני מאל המילואים, למשה היה למנה כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. And Moshe took the breast of the animal and waved it, a wave offering before Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, from the ram of inauguration sacrifice. This was for Moshe as his portion, as Yud-Heh Vav-Heh had commanded Moshe.
Okay, everybody. So I know a lot of details, and you might have just seen the reason why many people glaze over Leviticus. But it's like, oh my God, what do I do with all these details? But thank God I am saving you from the land of ritual, and we're going to, we're about to go back to story and narrative and look at the 4 occurrences of the Shalshelet. So that was one. We're going to get more, we're going to go into the context of Moshe and the Shalshelet once we look at these other 3 narrative occurrences of Shalshelet. Okay, is that clear? Yeah. What we're doing? Okay, good. So out of the land of elevated breast offerings and blood on thumbs and pinkies and whatever, ears and big toes. And here we go. Okay, so I'm taking you all the way back to Genesis 19. And in Genesis 19, there's a story of Lot and his family who are being saved from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, because basically Lot is Abraham's nephew, right? And this is what happened when the 2 angels go to get Lot and his family. So it says, "Vayetze Lot v'yedaber el chotonav lokhe benotav." So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws, who had obviously married his daughters, right? If they're his sons-in-laws. Vayomer, and he said, "Kumu tzu'u min hamakom hazeh." Get up and go out from this place. Why? Ki mashchit Adonai et ha'ir, v'hi k'mitzachek be'einei chotonav. Because God is about to destroy this city or this town. And Lot was like a laughing stock in the eyes of his sons-in-laws. Ukemo hashachar Allah, and when the sun rose in the morning or the dawn broke, v'ya'itzu hamalachim belot lemor, and the messengers urged Lot on, saying, "Hum, קח את אשתך ואת שתי בנותיך הנמצאות פן תספה בעוון העיר." Up, take your wife, very clear. Up, kum, get up. Take your wife and your 2 remaining daughters, lest you be swept away. Why? Because of the iniquity of the city. And now, what happens? Ashachayim.
ויתמהמה ויחזיקו אנשים ידם.
He delayed. It doesn't say still he delayed. It just says, and he delayed, right? And the angels and the agents took his hands, right, by force. In the hands of his wife, and and the hands of his daughters, the chemlat Adonai alav, and the compassion that God had for him, or the pity God had for him, yotziuhu, and they took them out, or they brought him out, vayinichuhu michutz la'ir, and left him outside the city. So he did not go willingly. He delayed, and he was dragged out of this place that's about to be destroyed. So let's just take a moment. So what is that shalshelet moment? Why is he delaying? What's happening? So quick remarks. If you want in the chat, you can raise your hand, but right now, just lightning round.
He didn't consider himself worthy.
Paul says he didn't consider himself worthy of being saved. Wow. Wow.
Ambivalence.
What?
Ambivalence.
Ambivalence.
Ready to take action.
It's hard to go. It's hard to leave your home. Right. Oh my God, it's about to be destroyed. Who wants to believe that? Right. I don't want to believe that. Right. Part of me doesn't want to believe in that we're undergoing this huge planetary crisis. I want to be in denial. I don't want to go. Where am I going? Where are we going? Right? Okay. So it says, Mira Neshama Wow notes that the right side of the body symbolizes action. Chesed. Oh, this is this is from before. Thank you, Richard. That's helpful. Yes, I did have the Philo quote on the source sheet, but I removed it because I thought it was a bit of a sort of going in a different direction. But that's great. Thank you. Okay. Just as his wife looks back, slow to let go, torn, lack of trust. Who are these agents, right? Why should I believe them? Anyone else in the room? There were three angels that came to Abraham to tell him that he's about to have a child, in a year. And then two of them went to Stone to announce to Lot and his family that there was going to be a destruction. But you're right, he didn't know them in advance. They were strangers that he welcomed into his house. Complicated story. Okay, so anyone else? So Lot is right torn between the life he has and wanting to be saved. Right? And if you've ever considered leaving your home, right, and immigrating, that's a torturous, right? A torturous and painful decision. How hard is it to leave? I'm trying to get, I think it's too late, but because of my ancestors, a Spanish or Portuguese citizenship. I don't think it's happening. But but I just feel like, I should be able to leave in case we need to leave for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even that, like to consider, it's like
You're thinking it.
it can't really be possible that I have to leave my home. Right? We take so much for granted. Okay. Just see if I missed any. No. Okay, so we're going back to the next incidents. So this is less, the next incidents is a little less obvious and something I consider in a different way, but didn't consider in this specific way. So actually, we don't have to read this whole thing, but do you remember before Abraham had a child, right? And God said to him the following, right? I'll just read this. Al tira Avram, don't be scared. Anochi magen lach secharcha be'ma'od. I am a shield to you, and your reward shall be very great. And what does Avram say in response? And this is in Genesis 15, before he had either child. He says, what can you give me, seeing that I shall die childless? He is old, right? He starts off the story old, right? He's 70 when he leaves Haran. Abraham, Adonai, mati tenli. Adonai, mati tenli. Va'anochi holech ariri. I am barren. That's the male version of barren. That word ariri. And then he says, uven meshek beiti udamesek Eliezer. And the one in charge of my household is Damesek Eliezer. And then he says, I want my steward to be my heir. Right? So he's lost hope that he'll have a child. So instead, he wants the head of his household, this guy Eliezer, to sort of be the bearer of the promise, right? And God says, not having it. That one shall not be your heir. No to Eliezer, none but your very own issue shall be your heir. Lo yirashcha zeh, ki im asher yetzeh mime'echa hu yirashecha. Okay, so then the next thing you know, the head of Abraham's household is sent to get a wife for Isaac. So you can imagine if Eliezer, if first of all, if this same head of household is Eliezer, right, which is not clear in the text, but if he had any inkling that he might be the heir of the promise, how does he feel about getting Isaac a wife? Right? Is it his destiny or is it Yitzchak's destiny? Maybe he's split. So here's the section with the shalshelet. Asher Chaim, I turn back to you to read this section and to point out where the shalshelet would be, which is right here. You don't see that mark for some reason in this text, but it's in
When you bold a word, it loses its trope. In Safaria, when you make a word bold face, it takes away the trope.
Is that what happens?
Simple technical difficulties. You can write to Safaria, maybe they'll change it.
It's back. Okay.
ואם לא תובע האישה ללכת אחריך, וניחית משבועתי זאת, רק את בני לא תשב שמה. Abraham to the servant, if the woman, parentheses, whom you find suitable to be bride to Yitzchak, is not willing to come after you, you will be clean from this my oath. Just don't return my son there. וישם העבד את ידו תחת ירך אברהם אדוניו, וישבע לו על הדבר הזה. The servant placed his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and took an oath to him about this matter. Just as we put a hand on a Bible, the place of circumcision was the holy space for taking an oath, apparently. ויקח העבד 10 גמלים מגמלי אדוניו, וילך, וכל כרוב אדוניו בידו, ויקום, וילך אל ארם נהריים, el ir Nahor. The servant took 10 camels from among his master's camels, and he went with all of the good stuff of his master in his hand. He arose and went to Aharam of the 2 rivers, to the city of Nahor. ויברח הגמלים מחוץ לעיר אל באר המים לעת ערב, לעת צאת השואבות. And he made the camels kneel down outside of the city at the well of waters towards evening, towards the hour that the young women come out to draw water. Adonai Elohei Adoni Abraham hakrena lefanai hayom v'aseh chesed im Adoni Abraham. And he said or prayed, pause, Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, God of my master Abraham, make something happen in front of me now, and do kindness with my master Abraham. Hinneh anochi nesav al ein hamayim, uvnot anshe ha'ir yosot lish'ov mayim. Behold, I am taking a stand near the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the town are coming out to draw water. V'hayah ha'na'ara asher omar ela harpina hadech ve'eshteh, ve'amra shteh, v'gam gamalecha ashkeh, utah hochachta le'avdecha li'yitzchak, uvach eda ki asita chesed im Adoni. when a young woman to whom I say, please let down your pitcher so that I may drink, and instead she says, drink, and I will also provide water for your camels, she's the one whom you have proven to be proper for my master Yitzchak, and through this I will know that you have done kindness with my master.
Great, thank you so much. So let's go back to that word vayomar, vayomar in 12. So what's going on for the servant at that moment? Let's do another lightning round. What's happening?
He was praying.
He was praying. So
Yes.
why the shalshelet? Oh, because to sort of draw out the prayer.
To emphasize that the servant recognized the importance or primacy of God.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Julia.
Or like he's like, please let me be nice, please let me be nice. Like he's going like let me feel compassionate in this moment. And then he lands at the like, okay, I want to find a good woman. But maybe you hinted earlier that like he was kind of not sure if he wanted to facilitate the losing.
Yeah,
place.
exactly.
Yeah.
So please let me sort of fulfill my mission.
Please let me be nice such that I want to fill my mission. Yeah.
I see.
There's some pre-step to the
I see.
but yeah.
Please let me be who I'm supposed to be at this moment.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so
Right here.
okay. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
I believe there's a midrash. It says that Eliezer had a daughter.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
Hold on, we're getting there. We do have that midrash. Okay. So okay. He's thinking. I just think okay, yeah. He's let's see. Reminiscent of oh no, this is before. Your money or your life, that's funny. Okay. Ambivalence, he's thinking, praying for success that will cost him a lot of money or his master. Like when you begin Amidah, 3 steps back first. Nice. Music helps us pay attention. So at the times to pay attention, the passages emphasize with the musical trope. Yes. Help me be my best self. Kind of like what Julia said. Maybe he was struggling with whether or not to sabotage the mission and thus Isaac's potential to be the heir. So wrestling with different parts of himself. Anyone else in the room? Okay. So let's see what the Rashi says. The Rashi that Wendy was just talking about on 2439. Hold on a second. Yeah, we don't have actually that verse, but it's okay. When he says, maybe this woman won't follow me. This is source number 8. The word, instead of a lie, I guess, or Eli lo telach haisha. Yeah, Eli lo telach haisha is ulai, is maybe. Eli kativ bat haita lo Eliezer. So a daughter, Eliezer had a daughter. Hayat mechazer lemsot ilah. So Yomar lo Abraham lefnot elav lahasio bito. Eliezer had a daughter, and he was endeavoring to find some reason why Abraham should say that he must appeal to him, Eliezer, that he should give his daughter in marriage to Isaac. Amar lo Abraham bini baruch ba'ata aror ba'in aror medabek v'baruch. And Abraham said to him, my son is blessed, and you are subject to a curse. One who's under a curse cannot unite with one who's blessed. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. But it does underscore how Eliezer might have hoped it was his destiny and not someone else's destiny. Right? So he's between, the ambivalence here is potentially that he's between two destinies, right? Serving his master or hopes for his own family. Okay. So now, so far, what we could say is the ambivalence between destinies, right? Lot wanting to stay or Lot wanting to go. Eliezer's destiny or his master's destiny. So now we're up to Joseph. So this is the scene with Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Potiphar, so after Joseph was sold into slavery, his first sort of line of work, so to speak, was that he entered Potiphar's house and he became sort of the master of the house. And Potiphar kind of, in a sense, fell in love with him and gave him permission to touch anything except for his wife, right? So he had sort of mastery over the whole entire house. And then after a time, right, not only was Potiphar taken with Joseph, but Potiphar's wife was also taken with Joseph. And it's clear, right, the Torah tells us that Joseph was very beautiful of form, just like his mother was. It says, "Vayihi achar hadvarim ha'ela, tisa eshet Adonav et eineha el Yosef, v'tomer shechva ini." After a time, his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Lie with me." Note that she does not have a name. She's just the master's wife. Now here is the shalshelet. You want to do it, Pasha Chaim?
Back in college, there was a fellow student who would take this one word in biblical Hebrew and stretch it out to, oh, I'm so tempted, but I really shouldn't. Oh, but I'm so. He had a brilliant way of doing it. I can't match him, so he's stuck in my head. Thank you, David Sclear. Vayomer el eshet Adonav, etc.
So he refused. That's the shalshelet word. And Vayomer el eshet Adonav, hen Adoni lo yada. Sorry, I'm just trying to see where. Lo yada iti ma babayet. I see. V'cho asher yesh lo natan biyadi. Look with me here, my master gives no thought to anything in this house, and all that he owns he has placed in my hands. Einenu gadol babayet hazeh mimeni. There's no one who's like greater in this house than me. V'lo chasach mimeni ne'uma. He has not withheld anything from me. Ki imotach, except for you. Asher at ishto, because you are his wife. Ve'ech eseh hara'ah hagdalah hazot. How can I do this evil thing? V'chatati le'Elohim. And I will be sinning against God. And notice here that he does this whole thing about the master and what the master has entrusted in him. Then he says, how can I do this thing and sin against God, not sin against the master? It's an interesting shift right there. You'll see how the commentary in the Midrash picks up on that. And as much as she coaxed Joseph day after day, he did not yield to her request to lie beside her, lihiyotima, to be with her. Vayihi kayom hazeh v'yavo habayta la'asot melachto ve'ein ish me'anshei habayit sham babayit. One such day he came to the house to do his work, and none of the household being there inside. So, we know what's happening now. Vatit pisehu b'vigdo. She caught hold of him by his garment. Lemor shechva'i me, saying, lie with me, vayazov bigdo biyada, and he left his garment in her hands. Vayanas vayatzeh achutza, and he ran away and fled outside. Vayihi kir'ota ki yazad bigdo biyada vayanas achutza. When she saw that he had left it in her hand and it fled outside. Sorry. What happens is she accuses him of accosting her. Right? She accuses him of the opposite of what happened. Okay, Jay, do you have a quick comment?
Yes, about these last two instances.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of strange that here the two shalshelets, and in both cases, key protagonists, it is in fact Lot and his family, and Lot's wife does in fact tarry and becomes a pillar of salt. And
Yes.
Potiphar does, in fact, then try to take literally action in her own hands, Potiphar's wife, sorry. And in both cases, these are nameless wives of protagonists. Lot's wife is never named. Potiphar's wife is never named. I just thought it was an interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting literary feature of, right, those two instances. But not true in the Eliezer story, except the Eliezer story, he's not named. Right? He's named earlier on, but not in this particular scene. Okay, Rachel.
I'm interested in the Shalshelet now from the point of view of reading a story aloud. Even if this is our holiest story, for anyone interested in theater, it is a way for the storyteller to provide humongous suspense as the audience waits to hear what happened next.
Nice.
And I think it's magnificent. And that's all. I said, oh my golly, I know what that reader's doing, what the chanter is doing. He wants the audience to wait. And then what happened? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and each of these really point us to the inner life of the person, right? Who's experiencing something. Right. What did it take Joseph to refuse? So let's look and see what it took. So in Sotah 36b in the Babylonian Talmud, it says, and she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. At that very moment, this is number 10. So that very moment, an image, and that word is really interesting because it's a Greek word relating to icon, right? The image of his father, right, came to him. Near Atalo Bechalon came to him and appeared in the window. Amarlo and started speaking, evidently. Joseph, Atidin achecha shikatvu al avnei ephod v'atam beinehem. In the future, right? He's invoking the future. The names of your brothers are destined to be written on the stones of the ephod, and you are to be included among them. Do you want your name to be raised among them and to be called an associate, a ro'eh, zonot, a shepherd, so to speak, of, we don't say anymore harlots or prostitutes, but sex workers. Dichtiv v'ro'eh zonot ya'abed hon. As is written in Proverbs, he who keeps company with harlots wastes his riches. So this is really interesting because Joseph starts off as an assistant to his brothers who are shepherds, right, of sheep. And here they're using this proof text to say, you started off as a shepherd, and now do you want to be a ro'eh, right, in the sort of the dark side of life. And what this text is doing is presenting to Joseph, there's maybe a power or a seduction of the moment, but there's a future that you're going to be sacrificed if you go with it.
Yeah.
It's a commentary that demeans the verse, I think.
Yeah, why?
Well, the story itself is one of such subtlety in the ambiguities of love and desire, and
God, just in time, because he's
just, the original story has a lot of emotional and physical subtlety,
Yes.
and the commentary is just straight up misogyny. Blame the slut.
Well, it may be misogyny, but I don't think it's straight up misogyny because it's about what you sacrifice when you give into the temptation of the moment.
No, I think it's.
You don't think so?
I think it proves your greater point that this is an attempt to remove an uncomfortable ambiguity of reciprocity that's in the original text and reduces it to a mere act of seduction, which is a one-way street.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it tries to remove the waiver.
It tries to remove the waiver.
Yeah.
See, to me, it unpacks the waiver, but let's see what other people have to say. Okay, anyone who has not spoken yet.
I would say one thing.
Yeah, say one thing. Say two things.
It would seem from Genesis that Joseph doesn't seem entirely unwilling.
On what?
unwilling.
Doesn't seem like he's entirely unwilling.
Yeah, I imagine this woman is exceedingly beautiful and sweet smelling. So, I don't think that his decision is an easy one.
Yeah, so you're entering the moment with him. Like, what could he have been experiencing at that moment? And what do you think of the Talmudic commentary? That his father appearing to him at that moment. It's like a super ego moment.
Definitely, super ego moment. This is the moment when he takes on his destiny.
Yeah.
He ends up in jail, and in jail he's able to come out of jail, and the whole thing. So
that restraint in this story is pivotal. You're absolutely right to the story. Because then he enters jail and becomes a dream interpreter in a way that lifts him out of jail and also lifts him out of this cycle of up and down, dark and light. Right? Something about restraint in the story is really just crucial for this character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Amy.
Just to follow with Jay's concept, in Leviticus 8:22, Aaron's wife is not named. They're the sons of Aaron, but they don't name the wife.
Yes, and she's named in the Midrash or other places as Elisheva, other places in the Torah.
And then in the other one, in Eliezer's, there's discussion about Eliezer wanting Abraham's son to marry his daughter. That daughter is not named. And then again, Lot's wife is not named, and Potiphar's wife is not named. So just to follow with Jay's concept,
there's a parade of women who are not named in the Torah. Absolutely, Jeffrey, you have your hand up.
But they're the backbone of the family. That's hence the vertical line.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Maybe it's indicating that sort of there's a double bind here. No matter what he does, the same consequence occurs, right?
In other words, no matter what he does, he's screwed.
He's screwed.
He is screwed.
He would have been screwed twice if he hadn't slept with her. If he had slept with her, then the same consequence would have happened, right? I mean, more or less, they would have thrown him in jail. And if he didn't sleep with her, he gets thrown in jail anyway. So there actually is no agency. It doesn't matter what he does. Maybe this is indicating
no, but it does
it's irrelevant.
But it does matter. It doesn't matter on this level. It doesn't matter for like what happens at this moment, but it matters for the future. That's what the Talmud is telling us. Right? It matters for his legacy, for his spiritual legacy, to his children and to the whole Israelite family. So something could not matter and yet matter. Could land me in jail either way, and I'm a different person who's in prison.
It only matters on It matters on a different level.
Exactly. Exactly.
A seal level doesn't matter.
Exactly.
On a spiritual quote unquote.
I'm screwed either way, and yet I'm going to be a different person. Right. And it's hard to get that if the physical consequences are the same. Yeah. Yeah. Tony.
I think it's even more complicated than that.
You think it's more complicated than that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Which is to say there are a lot of levels here, including the tantric level. Like if two become one, it could be a good thing. That fun could be like wildly shifting the axis of the world.
Okay, so it would have been a different destiny. I get you. Okay, 3 quick comments online because we still have another big chunk of text to do. So I'm going to go with Paul, Sue Ann, and Marilyn.
Well, when we heard Asher Chaim sing out, but he refused that, I put in the chat that, yeah, but Yosef wanted her even then. And we know that because this is the same guy who was this very cocky, beautiful teenager. So we know that from the past, and we know what's coming, that if his father had to appear and talk to him, the father also knew. So it was going on.
Mm-hmm. The woman he marries is Potiphera, right? Which may be some delayed gratification there, because it's a play on the name.
Nice.
Okay, I think I said Sue Ann and then Marilyn.
Yeah, I'm just also struck by the musical notes that are associated with.
Good.
We start in a low note, we go all the way up, including the mid notes to a high note. We go back to a low note, back to a high note, and then it ends on neither the lowest nor the highest note. And it seems to me as music as the universal language, whatever midrash you read or speaks to you or you create is included in those notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you make of the fact that it lands on the middle note? What midrash are you?
That we ultimately modulate.
That there's some balance that's achieved.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. Marilyn.
Yeah, I always heard this as ambivalence. I'd heard about it before, but what struck me just now, especially bringing in the other examples, is this could be God trying to get the attention of, in the four examples, like it's, and I love the way she describes the notes because it's the same thing, like hello, 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 hello. Okay. And then Eliezer does what he has to do, or Joseph does what he has to do. But it's like, God, I'm on the line, or the angel, or whatever.
Yes, but Lot doesn't do what he's supposed to do. He's dragged out. So that's an interesting kind of departure from this series.
Well, no, in my thing, it's still the God saying, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. And yes, and then God pulls him out, but it's still, there's an interaction going on between God and the person, almost
I see.
like
I see what
that
you're saying.
in all four cases. That's the way I heard it this time.
Beautiful. So God's calling our attention to that moment. Okay, yes, gotcha. And then we're going on.
As long as we've gone back, I
Yeah.
want to say that I was very struck by the placement of blood all over the place. I mean, if I walked into Romemu and I found blood all over, I'd run out, you know?
Wait, hold on. Wait, someone in the Zoom room is not muted, and we're hearing sounds. Thank you.
So, and in a way, putting blood behind your ear and on your toe and so on, not only on everything around you, but on your own self, it gives me the feeling that we are sacrificing ourselves in a sense, in a very positive way, to where we've come out of Egypt and, we have to have a new mentality. So we're getting rid of that mentality and we're sacrificing the old for the new.
Beautiful, beautiful. So they're being consecrated from, one could say, an old consciousness into a new consciousness. Beautiful.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry?
They're being consecrated from an old consciousness into a new consciousness.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, so now we're going back to that motion moment, just very briefly. So here's where the shalshelet is, right? By Yishchat, and he's slaughtered, and there's the pasek, there's the stop. And after every shalshelet, when I was studying with Rabbi Sharon this morning, we discovered there's a pasek, there's a stop. So it sets it off, right? And
Pasek mean?
pasek means a stop.
What's a shashal? It's a
Pasek is just a note that indicates a stop.
like
The
a musical
shalshelet,
notation.
what? Yes. Yeah, we explained this in the beginning. The shalshelet is a musical note that indicates the way Asher Chaim went back and forth, right? Which I cannot do at this moment. So the Yishchat has the shalshelet, and then there's the stop, right? And he slaughtered it. The Kach Moshe Midamo, right? So again, we read this before. I'm just taking us back to that moment. And Moses took some of his blood and put it on the ridge of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. So the question is, why would Moshe have ambivalence at this moment? Or what are the two destinies, right, wavering before him? you want to answer that question, Wendy?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I read a commentary this week that on this portion, and it indicated that Moshe had ambivalence because he kind of thought that he should be the Kohen Gadol.
He should be the priest.
Like
He should be the high priest.
He was the guy.
He was the
Like,
guy.
what? You know, and the thing of it is that, you know, this event affects the rest of the next, you know, 3,000 years, because there's descendants of the Kohanim, of Aaron, but the descendants of Moses are kind of like lost in the wash. You know, they're just all part of the Levian.
So now Moshe's legacy will not, a prophet does not is not passed down to their children. A priesthood is passed down. Beautiful. Thank you. That's very helpful. Beth, we're going to get through some text and then I will call on you. Okay. So now let's look at this piece of the Babylonian Talmud. And what we're doing here is the Talmud is remembering what happened at the bush, right? What happened at the bush? Moses was deeply ambivalent about his role, right? And so the Talmud does something very interesting here. It says that when Moses was at the burning bush and expressed hesitation to deliver God's message to Torah, the verse states, so now I'm back in the Gemara, and God got mad at Moshe. Like, what is all this resistance about? Right? And then it says, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha Omer, Kol Charon af shebetorah nemar bo roshem v'zel lo. Every time there's God gets angry in the Torah, there's an effect, but here there isn't. So where's the effect? Nemar bo roshem, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai Omer, av zeh nemar bo roshem, but no. Shimon bar Yochai said, even here there's an effect. And what's the effect? Halo Aharon Achicha Halevi V'halo Kohenhu. So it says here, is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Remember when Moshe is saying, I can't speak, and God says, there's Aaron, your brother, the Levite. But the Gemara asks, but isn't Aaron a priest? Why is he referred to as a Levite? And this is what God is saying to Moses. I initially said that you would be the priest and he would be the Levite. But now, given all your resistance, he will be the priest and you will be the Levite. Right? So that, and the rabbis say Moses became a priest the 7 days of an inauguration alone. Right? So here he needs to be a priest so he can induct Aaron and his sons. But after this, no more priesthood, which explains why he would want to delay. I don't know if I want to give up this role. This role is mine. It should be mine. I want to be priest and prophet. And God is saying, no, because of your resistance, about your leadership, you can only be one. Now let's think about that for a second. So this is kind of big. You know, when you have resistance about things, right? I never say like people get what they're asking for, but on some level, right? Perhaps we get what we're asking for on some level, in the sense of like, how much responsibility do I want to want? Right? Maybe I'm ambivalent about that responsibility. So maybe I'll have less responsibility. Maybe I'm not ambivalent about responsibility. So then I'll have more responsibility. Right? So maybe on some levels, the universe or God responds to what we're actually asking for. And here one could say God responds to Moses' ambivalence, but much later on. He can be prophet, but he can't be priest and prophet. There's a limit to his role. Okay, so
Disaster of the Maccabees from that.
Steph, who's been waiting for a while. Go ahead.
Shabbat Shalom. Two things. First of all, I don't think Moshe's hesitation at the burning bush was that great. He says, me anochi, et cetera, but then that's it. And that's not much of a challenge. He just says, why me?
No. He resists in all kinds of ways, Beth. He says, I have no voice, I can't speak, send somebody else. No, there's sustained resistance over many verses.
Okay.
This is incorrect.
But my main point is, if we look at what's happening with Moshe in our current Parsha, he's about to slaughter the animal. Where else have we seen Moshe kill something, some living being? When he kills the Egyptian overseer. And in that context, he's all by himself, and he's being sneaky about it because he's looking here and there to make sure he's alone, that he's not being observed. And then he goes and kills the overseer and runs away. In this context, he's about to kill a living being, but he's got an audience. He's got his brother, his nephews, he's got all these people around him. And I think that the shalshelet in this instance is Moshe thinking about what he's doing and perhaps thinking back to that other time that he killed something, another living being. And that it's not so much hesitation or wavering as it is he's really thinking about what he's doing. And I think that could apply to the other examples that we've looked at with the shalshelet as well. DeBarty.
Beautiful. So there's a sense here, maybe he doesn't want to give up a role, or there's a sense here, maybe he doesn't want to kill an animal, right? And if you think about the sanctuary and the cherubs, right? The cherubs that take us back to Eden. Perhaps killing animals in sanctuary takes us out of Eden, right? And maybe Moshe wants this sacrificial rite or this service in the Mishkan to be something else. That's one way we can go with this. Hold on, Tony. Hold on.
Just a question.
Hold up. I'm going to call on Jay, read 2 passages. Beth had her hand up. If we have time for Beth and Tony, we'll get there.
Quick question about the Zvachim passage. We know that the ultimate punishment of Moshe was that he couldn't enter the land, but in none of the putative reasons for that, there's no shalshelet. Just a thought.
Correct. So yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that, but I can, and it's in that case, Moshe really expresses his grief and resistance to that fate. Here it's underground, and the shalshelet, right, raises up what could be a moment of ambivalence and what is a moment of sort of stepping into a different destiny. Right, all that stuff, Jay, is very above ground, right? This is below ground, and that shalshel is saying, hey, and the Midrash is saying, hey, something's happening here you're not paying attention to. Okay, so I want to read 2 passages, and then if there's time, I will call on people. Okay, so this is from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, and he says, good leaders.
Hey, Rabbi Dan, we can't see the screen.
I see that. That's very unfortunate. Okay. Let's see. Again, let's try it again. No. Oh, yes. Excellent. Okay. Good leaders know their own limits. They do not try to do it all themselves. They build teams. They create space for people who are strong when they are weak. They understand the importance of checks and balances and the separation of powers. They surround themselves with people who are different from them. They understand the danger of concentrating all power in a single individual. But learning your limits, knowing there are things you cannot do, even things you cannot be, can be a painful experience. Sometimes it involves an emotional crisis. It's not only true for leaders, it's true for anybody. How much can we be in one life? We have to choose. And that can be really painful. Right? I wanted to be this, but I turned out to be that. Right? What happened to that? Okay, and then Jonathan Sachs says that I encourage people to listen to his piece, The Courage of Identity Crisis. What all 4 stories tell us is that there comes a time for each of us when we must make an ultimate decision as to who we are. It is a moment of existential truth. Lot is a Hebrew, not a citizen of Sodom. Eliezer is Abraham's servant, not his heir. Joseph is Jacob's son, not an Egyptian of easygoing morals. Moses is a prophet, not a priest. To say yes to who we are, we have to have the courage to say no to who we are not. There is pain and conflict involved. That is the meaning of the shalshelet.
Wow.
But we emerge less conflicted than we were before if we make that choice. If we actually consciously make the choice. If we don't, we can spend years conflicted, right? And just kind of stuck. Marla, the therapist in the room, is saying, uh-huh. Yes.
Not that I've mastered this by any means, believe.
Who has mastered this? And this is not necessarily a moment, it's an ongoing process. Or maybe it's a moment. I think it kind of depends on the person.
I love that.